Hello, good evening. Hello, everybody. How are you feeling? You okay? Do you need a hug? Yeah, I needed a hug. Needed a hug yesterday. But I'm all right. I'm all right today. I'm all right. I've got over it. But massively, massively disappointed. Didn't really want to speak about it at all today. And it's stupid, really, isn't it? This is a game of football, but unfortunately, what it does is it dictates how you feel. It's really important to all of us, and it's a strange thing. I don't believe that there is another sport that can really drive the passion that football does. Grown men were trying to get out of the stadium to punch a gooner yesterday, and stuff like that. And for two pins, you could get easily caught up in that. Really could, because you're just enraged with it all, especially being 3-0 down. So, but listen, there's no point. There's no point crying over it. What we've got to do is try to look at this from a level-headed approach. I try, as I always say, I try to be as level-headed and as sensible as I can be. And it's not always easy. Like I say, that's why I've kind of left it this long before I posted the video. So, hugely disappointed with the result. But I've got to be honest, I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked by it. My view before the game was, I was hoping really for something like a 2-2 draw, something like that. There's not been too many away wins for either side. We tend to cancel each other out. This was a North London derby, and you get a lot of passion in that game, and it tends to be nervy towards the end and cancel each other out and so on. But I have to say, to get smashed in the first half to 3-0 was so difficult, and it felt like the writing was on the wall that this was going to be an absolute annihilation. And I think ultimately, getting back to 3-2, albeit by the manner that we did, kind of papers over the cracks, really. Let's start from the beginning, because I'm starting to ramble, but the crowd were absolutely on it. The atmosphere was buzzing from the pubs. The atmosphere was building in there. There was lots of people there, lots of faces, lots of old faces, people that you've kind of known for a long time. But the build up was really, everyone was really positive about it, which we tend to do, but positive, being a little bit naive about it, really. We have to be honest with it all. They are probably 5 or 6 years into their build. I can recall the conversations and the posts from Arsenal fans calling for Arteta to be got rid of, and that, trust the process, bruv, and all that sort of stuff, and being really fed up with it and unhappy with the type of football and stuff like that. Even this issue of trying to score the perfect goal, walking it into the back of the net, and it's really funny how some of those things are really the same for us at this moment in time. There's lots of people calling out for change and so on, but the difficulty around it is you've got to stick with something at some point. I get the criticisms, the lack of improvement in the set pieces, for instance, is a massive problem, and Postecoglou doesn't help himself there with the comment about, if I thought this would solve all our problems, I'd concentrate on it. okay, I get it. It's not the only problem. It's not the only thing that's going to bridge the gap, is how he put it. And I really get that. What he's trying to say is that that's not just the only problem we've got. There's plenty of other things in there that need to be addressed. And you can't just go, yeah, sort that out and that's it. The end of it all, we're all good after that. So I honestly get that. I understand where he's coming from for it. But there's a time and a place for that kind of comment that would help. That's not really helping, because everyone's calling out that how many goals we've conceded to set pieces, and it goes on and on and on. Vicario getting bullied, zonal marking, creating this problem whereby everyone's just running around in the space and no one's getting picked up because everyone's just blocking off their own little bit. And that's just not good enough. It's just not good enough to compete against the top teams. It's just not going to happen. You've got to have a plan and you've got to stick to it and make it work. Now, for me, I think one of the key elements in all of this with Postecoglou is that he's got his way he wants to play football, and he's decided this is how it's going to work, and this is what I want, and this is what's brought me success, this is what I believe in. The problem you get with that is that not everybody within that team are capable of doing what he wants them to do and do it in the way he wants them to do it. So ultimately, there's the growth that needs to come from that, and there's the improvement that needs to come from that, whether that's improved coaching, improved players, whatever that might be. That's what's got to come, and that's why it's going to take time. What we have to ultimately stick to is the fact that this is still very, very new. It's a new manager with lots of new players, trying to play a new system and trying to grow into that way of playing and into that success mindset. So whilst I understand the calls for Postecoglou to change or to go or whatever, it's just doing the same thing time and time again. We go for a win now manager, and what are we going to get? We're not going to back him in the same way that a Manchester City would, or an Arsenal would, or a Liverpool would. We're not going to do that. That's the owners are not going to do it, and they are the problem, right? Because what we all want is a sugar daddy that's going to come in and turn us into his own personal plaything, spend umpteen millions and millions of pounds, and give us instant success, which in itself is going to be really difficult because you're still competing with the likes of Arsenal and Chelsea and Man City and Liverpool and Manchester United, who have dominated English football for the last 30, 40 years. So it's never gonna be easy in that, and you've got to go beyond what they're prepared to do. And I just don't think this owner's prepared to do that, and I think some of the owners that are trying to come in are not going to be prepared to do that either. So you're then stuck with this scenario of having to have some kind of project, some kind of build, some kind of plan that takes you forward. And I don't see that there's a better one than the one that we're currently in. It might take more time, and I think we've got to give it another season at least to be able to see the shoots of improvement. The last season we came, 7th? No Europe, really poor football, a manager who didn't want to be with us and so on. So you have to look at it from that point of view and go, okay, so we've been challenging for the top 4. We're within the top 5. We're bound to get European football next season. That's a start. We've got a manager who wants to be there. That's the next point. We're playing at times better football. The foundations are there of some better football. We've seen some of those opportunities happen. Not all the time, not consistently. And that's the problem. But we can see the shoots of that. We can see the shoots of that coming. If you sit down and be absolutely honest, you can see the shoots of that. Let's not be reactionary. let's try and say, right, okay, give it time. Let's have a think about it and go, right, am I seeing something better than I was seeing previously? Because we forget that so quickly. Things move on so quickly, and we're all fed up of being bantered by rival fans, for sure. But ultimately, it's our club. It's what we need to do. We need to look at how we move it forward, and what's it going to look like. So if you go back to the game yesterday, let's be honest. We had lots and lots of control of the game for long periods. We were threatening for long periods. We had some of the better possession and play and so on, but without really having a threat. So what Arsenal did was they took their opportunities. First goal, own goal. Unfortunate, one of those things. He's trying to head it out, and it goes back and goes in. Okay, so that's disappointing. Then when you look at the second goal, that comes from a decision not to give a penalty. Now, I've seen it a few times. It does look a bit soft, but it also does look like he was tackled enough to bring him down. So if it was given, I don't think there'd have been too many complaints about it. It wasn't, but the players didn't react. They allowed the break, and someone like Saka with his quality is not going to miss from there. So that's that. Then you get the Havertz goal, and you're 3-0 down, and you're fighting for your life. This issue around the goalkeeper, not being stronger and so on. I absolutely get that as well, and I know I've touched on it. But Ben White messing about with tugging at his gloves and stuff like that, messing him about, it's just not good enough. And the refs should be picking that kind of stuff up, and putting a stop to it. Anyway, boos at half time. Absolutely. Was everyone pissed off? Yes, absolutely. They was pissed off. They were pissed off in the performance. They were pissed off in the fact that we were losing. They were pissed off with the refereeing, which seemed to let everything go that we would want to go for us down. It's easy to say, oh, the ref's against you and it's the ref's fault and all the rest of it. But some of these players, in my opinion, go down far too easy. They allow themselves to try and play for something that and then get the ump when it doesn't come. This is a North London derby. This should be blood and thunder. This should be, tough tackles. You should expect tough tackles back, and the referee should let that flow, knowing that it's a big game. But yeah, so yeah, absolutely understand the boos at half time. The pictures of Tottenham fans leaving the ground and all the rest of it, total nonsense. I stayed right till the end, and I can tell you the whole South Stand was full, and I didn't see any gaps at all around. There might have been one here or there, but generally speaking, there was no fans leaving that stadium. Coming into the second half, we get the penalty on Ben Davies, absolute stonewall penalty. Cannot understand that Michael Oliver doesn't see that, even though he's looking straight at it, waves it away, blah blah blah. Eventually brings it back, and we get the penalty that kind of gets us back to the within touching distance. And if only we'd have been playing the whole match in the way we tried to play best part of the second half, with the pressing and the pushing and the chasing, we might have actually got something out of the game. But this is the problem. This team's only playing for 40 minutes, 30 minutes out of a game. They're not playing long enough and hard enough for the whole period. And if I'm being honest, I know I've said that we had lots and lots of possession. The other thing that strikes me is I almost felt that Arsenal didn't really need to get out of gear. They'd got their 3 goals. The game was won in the first half. They didn't really need to do anything. They could sit back, and I always felt like they had another gear they could go up if they really, really wanted to. Fortunately for us, they didn't. They didn't put us to the sword in the first half like they probably could have done, or took it to us in the second half and really killed us. One more goal, and that would have been it anyway. But to get back to 3-2, I think it papers over the cracks. It gives us a little bit of hope that it wasn't as bad as we think it was. but it probably was. I didn't feel that we did enough. I felt that we just popped the ball around in front of their defence with no penetration and no real insightful passing or anything like that. Everything was going out to Brennan Johnson, who was crossing it in, but there's no one following it up. There was no height to any ball coming in or anything like that. It wasn't mixed up. It was just the same regurgitation of the same move over and over again. I think the team are crying out for an out-and-out striker, which was always going to be difficult after losing Harry Kane. You know, you can't compare him. But being in a situation where you've got no recognised out-and-out striker, Richie coming back from injury, only playing a bit part, he's not firing all those cylinders again. So there's a big thing. There's a big thing in there. Obviously losing Udogie. Someone who was watching my video before corrected me. It's not Udogie, it's Udogie. So anyway, with him being out, we need a backup. We need a backup for that for sure. The middle of the park, it was non-existent for large parts of the game. We didn't get on top of them enough. We didn't press them enough. We didn't push them enough. We didn't tackle enough. Overall, it was a lackluster performance for a North London derby. But they are further forward in their project than we are. They have trusted their manager. They're stuck with it. Not the fans, because they wanted him out straight away, but the club itself has stuck with it and kept pushing, and they have spent the money. They've paid the money. They paid £100 million for Declan Rice, and that's paying dividends for him because he's been a very good player for them this season. And they are flying. I mean, they're scoring goals for fun. So, considering where we are, it was one of them that was always going to be. It was always going to be a difficult day. But we just have to take it on the chin. I guess, whilst this sounds a really negative video, and probably a little bit of mixed messages overall, but I guess my overall point in this is we didn't play particularly well. There was no bite, but we did have loads of possession, and we did keep pushing until the end. Arsenal further forward of us. They are a better footballing side. We know that they're top of the league. They've seen off better sides over the course of the season and got some really good results. And so we can't be too disappointed in a first season with a new manager and new players and new tactics and all that kind of stuff. You have to take it one step at a time. You've got to keep your feet on the ground and see where this is going to take us. I think at the end of next season, we probably need to have a conversation about whether we feel that we are making the right steps, whether we are going forward. And a lot will depend on what happens over the summer. Are we bringing players in? What players are we letting go, more importantly? So there's an awful lot to think about. I think there is this attitude amongst football fans these days that everything has to be won now. You have to constantly change. You need to buy, the most expensive players or whatever. This club's never been that club, and it's not going to do that. It's not going to change like that. So I guess we just have to kind of think about where we are and keep our feet on the ground and keep our heads, rather than losing our shit every week. He had these same issues with Celtic, and look how that's turned out. And I know people will go, but we ain't playing Wraith Rovers and Forfar and this, that and the other. We're playing proper Premier League football now with proper Premier League teams. But like I say, you've got to stick with your project now you're in it, because what other alternative is there? If you look at Liverpool now looking likely to be taking on Arne Slot as their manager, who in my view is very similar to Ange to a certain extent in terms of the way he plays and the way he controls his club. He brings through youth and he doesn't overspend and stuff. That kind of tells you where they're likely to be going. So it'll be interesting to see where we go from here. Anyway, listen, I'm sorry, this is probably a really rambly, mixed up video, but I just wanted to get my thoughts out after being at the game yesterday, and feeling very, very disappointed. But what am I going to do? I'm a Tottenham fan. I've been a Tottenham fan all my life. I'll be a Tottenham fan until the day I die. So I shall just keep going and turn up at the next game and keep cheering on my team and hope that better days are on their way. We shall see. Keep the faith. Up the Spurs.